Okay, Intro to Manifold Gauges. I have a student in my online class, Wendell, and it's been so long since I got my first set of gauges I forgot how confusing they can be. And I did the same thing Wendell did when he got his gauges. I just forgot about it, and he asked if I could do a class on Introduction to Manifold Gauges. Now, like I said before, I'm going to do my very best not to put you into a coma and have you go surfing YouTube for funny videos when we go through this. Try and make this as interactive as possible. Okay, so you're probably wondering why I offer free online training. First of all, I've been in this industry for many, many years, and as I went from technician to a manager to a business owner, I found that most of the technicians, 9 out of 10 of them, if you lined them all up, there was only one that really knew his stuff. The rest kind of were flying by the seat of their pants, and I spent a lot of my time training. And at the end of all those years, I ended up with a stack of training materials, and I thought, you know what, I should do this online, and I can do this online. So that is why I'm doing the free, and I also have paid training. But it gives you a chance to see if online learning is right for you, or if we're a good fit. A lot of times if you're going to a college class, you just talk to an admissions coordinator, and however your instructor is, he is, and then you're stuck. I also hope that when you decide to take the dive into HVAC and consider doing training, that you'll consider my course and sign up. And I also enjoy teaching HVAC. I think that is, in fact, I know that's what I'm destined to do. I'm getting a little too old to be running around fixing air conditioning systems. All right, all of my training is about you. This webinar will be as long as short as we need it to be, and that's just like the online training. If we need to answer questions for 15 minutes, we will. There's no time limit. So if everybody's getting it, we're good to go. And if we're not, then we'll take the time to make sure you do get it. So tonight we're going to cover what a board-on tube is and how the gauges work, how to zero your gauges, the knob and the valve operation, and that's probably one of the things that is the most confusing. Hoses and service valves, safety, and if you stick with me to the end, I'll give you free access to modules 1 and 2 of the paid HVAC training certification course so you can try it out before the next class to see if that's right for you. I'll also show you how to access the free student area and the training videos. I know it's kind of confusing, so I'll step you through that really quick at the end. I'll spend just a few minutes doing that. Let's move on to some training. Manifold gauges. So this is a typical set of manifold gauges, and Imperial makes a very nice manifold gauge set. And the problem that we have, and all new technicians have when they get their first set of gauges, what the heck do you do with all of these knobs, and how do they work? So let's check it out. We're going to back up. First of all, let's back up here. Flying by the seat of my pants. All right, so how do they work first? All right, took a gauge apart today, took a picture of it for you. This is a board-on tube. The way the gauge works is down below here is where the hose is connected to the gauge. And when you connect it to pressure, this tube is hollow copper tube, and when it pressurizes, it will rotate up in this direction, and it'll start to come up like this, or if there's more pressure, it'll come up even more. And as that comes up more and the pressure is higher, it pulls on this armature down here at the bottom, and it'll move this little pinion, and on the other end of the other side of this metallic frame here is the needle, and it starts to move that needle around the gauge. This is a little bit better representation of what happens. Here's your pressure inlet right here at the bottom. That pressure comes up. This is a hollow tube. As you can see, the cross-section is right here. And then you have a pivot and the link, and it moves this little gear, and as the pressure increases and this tube starts to open up a little bit from the pressure, it will rotate that gear and that dial around so that it indicates the pressure on the gauge. Pretty simple. They've been around for decades and decades. You're going to see more and more digital gauges, but it does help to know how these gauges work. I have a set of digital gauges that I use when I'm troubleshooting or doing a startup or maintenance, but just for a quick check and before I dig out my digital gauges, I always use my analog gauges. All right, let's check out the video on how to zero your manifold gauges. Let me get the right link up there, and we'll play that video. Okay, so here's a good time to ask any questions you may have, as I now can see the chat window. Okay, let's go back. Okay, so the knobs. What about these knobs? This is one of those big question marks when you get your gauges. What do you open? What do you close? What do all the hoses do, and how does the manifold work? All right, so here's a little graphic depiction of a very simple manifold with 3 hoses. Now, first let's start with the low side hose. If you connect the low side hose to the low side of the refrigeration system, that pressure is immediately fed up here to the low side gauge. And this is with the valves closed here. So you have some valve seats here that isolate all of these ports from each other. And we're going to go through those. Same thing with the high side gauge. If it is connected to the high side with the valve closed, which is clockwise, it will display the pressure up here. So let's kind of go through how this looks. So here's a better depiction of it. Low side connected, it goes straight through. Even though the valve is closed, what these valve seats do is it isolates the hoses from the other ports on the manifold gauge. If you have an evacuation hose, it's also going to have a valve, and if it's closed, it's isolated from the high side and low side. So as you can see right here, these valve seats are closed, and that is clockwise to close those. This is when you are measuring system pressures and temperatures. These valves need to be closed, which are clockwise, and they are not as nice big seats like this, a lot of times they're a needle seat, so you don't want to crank them down with the force of a gorilla. You're going to bend those needles, and then you're not going to have a real good seal. Okay, the gauges are always connected, once again, to the outlet of this hose, no matter where, if the valve is open or closed. All right, so you can see we just opened up the high side right here, and if you just crack the high side, it is going to allow the high side pressure to come in, and if this yellow hose isn't connected to anything, the refrigerant is going to come spewing out. There is no reason to crack this valve right here or open any of the valves if you're measuring pressures on a system. Everyone see that? So there's with the high side gauge open. Now we have the low side gauge cracked just a bit, so it just lets a little refrigerant through here. Once again, there is no reason to do this when you're measuring pressures or temperatures, and you just need to be very careful. If you open up both of these gauges at the same time and the system is running, then you're going to feed refrigerant. It's going to go through the high side and it's going to come through your gauge and go back in the low side. It's not good for your system. Okay, when you're charging a system, that would be the only time that you would have this valve open while the system is running, and that's the low side valve. So this is connected to the low side of your air conditioning system, and the center port is going to be connected to your refrigerant tank so that you can feed refrigerant in to the system to charge it up. That would be the only reason that you would have any of the valves open, and it would only be the low side valve. One thing to keep in mind, that if you have more than one valve, there's also going to be a valve here on the refrigeration charging line. So you're going to have to open this valve here, if there was one, and this valve to let that refrigerant feed in. And once again, that gauge is always connected, showing you the pressure to the system. And again, if you open up the high side all the way, you're going to feed refrigerant out of this charging tube. And if you do have your refrigerant tank hooked up here, you're going to feed pressure into that tube. Not a good thing to do. Okay. The only reason that you're going to have any of your valves open all the way, the system's going to be shut down. This is for pressure testing. When you made a repair or an installation, you want to make sure that that's joint is holding. So you would hook your nitrogen tank up here, and then you would pressurize the system. And I forgot one thing up here. It needs to be for evacuation as well. So you'll pressurize that system, make sure there's no leaks, release the nitrogen, hook up your vacuum pump to the system, evacuate the system, and then if you're going to weigh in your system charge, then you would go ahead and charge it. And this is with the system off. You're never going to have these valves open with the system running. Okay, so at the end of your hose, you have a valve stem depressor right here, and then you have this little rubber seat. Now, it depends on who makes the hoses, but this rubber seat will start to get worn, and it's not going to make a really good seal. So depending on the manufacturer of the hose, you can grab this with your needle nose plier, depending, and sometimes this will pull out. This one looks like it is one that would unscrew, so you would take small needle nose or a little valve seat tool and unscrew this, pull out your valve depressor, and then you can remove this seal in the seat, and then at the supply house they have repair seats to replace that. This is what it looks like in the textbook for a where you connect your refrigeration hoses, and right here at the tip, this is this is a Schrader valve like you would see on a car tire or a bicycle tire. So that's what holds the pressure in, and that tip, that valve tip, or that valve depressor on the hose, when you hook it up, presses down on the Schrader valve, and that allows it to release the pressure out into the hoses themselves. And here's a cutaway view of what this looks like when you hook up your hose and how it depresses that valve, and it allows the refrigerant pressure to come through. All right, textbook once again. Here is a R410A system with your low side service valve, valve caps, and your high side service valve and the valve caps. One thing, these valve caps need to be on. If you ever go to a service call and they're missing, you need to have extras to put them on, because those Schrader valves tend to leak. Not a very good brazing joint right there, but for our purposes that works. Okay, just remember that liquid refrigerant, if you're hooking up gauges, safety tip, you are going to have problems. Later on, I'm going to show you how to avoid getting burned by cold refrigerant. Okay, so here we go. Now, this is the textbook. This is real life. Right here is the Schrader valve cap on an old system out in the field. So sometimes they're hard to find amongst all the junk. And here's what it looks like with the cap off. And that's why you need to keep the caps on, because if this cap wasn't on here, you would have nothing but junk and gunk down inside of this valve. And there's your real life Schrader valve. Hook up your high side gauge. Here's your cap for your low side gauge. And that's how it looks in real life. Okay, now let's go back here after we take a look at this. Some residential systems have, especially the older ones, have a manual valve. They don't have these Schrader valves here that automatically open up when you put your hoses on there. So what you may run into, and we'll come back to that safety tip, is a valve such as this. Here's where you hook your gauges up, but if you hook your gauges up while the system is operational, it's not going to read any pressure, all right, because this is a manual valve. If you looked in the end here, you wouldn't see a Schrader valve. It's just a wide open port. And these will usually have a cap over here protecting the service valve access. And you'll take your service wrench and you are going to just crack it a quarter turn. And this is counterintuitive, but you turn it clockwise, 1/4 turn in this direction here, just a quarter turn, and that is going to allow the refrigerant to enter the hose and go up into your gauges. This looks like this has been set up for charging right here because it's the yellow hose. So once again, if you hook up your gauges, you're not reading any pressure, and you see a stem coming out like this with a cap on it, you need to take that cap off. It'll expose that stem. Put your service wrench on, 1/4 turn clockwise, and you're going to have refrigerant exiting out of that service port. Now let's go back here. So you look at that safety tip, and it says the valves must be open to read pressure, but this is the most important thing. They must be closed before removing the gauges. So think about this. If you forget that this is a manual service valve here, this is cracked a 1/4 turn, and you go to take this gauges off, all you're going to have liquid refrigerant spewing out of this valve. And believe me, if you aren't expecting it and you don't remember where your wrench is, or you knock it off the end of the valve seat, it takes an awful long time, or at least seems so, to get that thing closed. All right, so just remember that. If you put your gauges on and neither gauge is measuring anything, you need to make sure that it's not one of these manual valves that looks like this. Okay. Another safety tip, if you can use gloves, use gloves. I wear glasses, so safety glasses are very important to have. And when R410A hits the atmosphere, it's minus 60 degrees is what that liquid boils at. So it is really easy to burn your eyeballs and cause frostbite, which I'll show you in just a little bit. All right, let's check out one more video. First of all, let me go back here and see what we have. Any questions for me? Everybody hanging in there? Okay. Hopefully you're still with me here. All right, let's do another video. Yes, Justin wants to know about, you know, when it's running, do you charge on the low side only? That is correct. But that, Justin, we'll get, if you stick with me throughout this year, we will get into a charging, we'll get into a charging class online and go into this. This is just a pretty basic how to hook them up and where to hook them up and how not to get yourself sent to the hospital before you even get a chance to get your own truck. So let's look at another quick video. The question, whether I prefer digital or mechanical gauges, I have both. I have my digital gauges, and I will use them if I am tuning a system and I want to get it charged to a T. My mechanical gauges I use more often for troubleshooting because a lot of times you're up on a roof or you're out in the weather, and those digital gauges are really expensive, and I don't want to buy another set. So I have my gauges that I use day to day are the mechanical gauges, and probably 90% of the time I use the mechanical gauges and not the digital gauges. I hope that answered your question. That's my preference only. All right, let's go back. Okay, this is what happens if you do not pay attention to what you're doing and you get liquid refrigerant on your hands. And that's not me, thank goodness, but this is a picture of someone. This is 3 weeks after the incident happened. So it's pretty important that you pay attention to what you're doing. And if you can use gloves, there's nice mechanics gloves that you can get that auto mechanics work, and some of the supply houses have them where they have the they allow you to manipulate tools and your gauges and your hoses fairly simply with some dexterity, I guess is what I'm looking to say. So just be careful. Okay, here is just a typical set of mechanical gauges, and everyone thinks that gauges are used to measure pressure. So some of the old school guys, the 9 out of the 10 that don't know their refrigeration theory, are looking for 125. I shouldn't have moved that. They're looking for 125 psi up here on the low side and 325 here, and they're good to go. That is not how you use your gauges. If you'll notice, the outer ring right here is a pressure ring. I know someone just had a question there. I'll check back here in just a bit because I can't see it. The outside there is a pressure ring right here that does indicate the pressure on both the low and the high sides. But what you need to know about your gauges is we have an R22 ring on these gauges, which is the green ring, and then you have an R410A ring on here, which is the pink ring, corresponding over here as well. So if you hook this system up to an R22 system, or you hook these gauges up to an R22 system, I'm sorry, R410A, let's go, no, we'll go R22, and you're reading 100 psi on the low side, the green ring right here is a corresponding temperature of the refrigerant. So as you can see, it crosses the green R22 ring right at 58 or 59 degrees. If this is an R410A system, it's a different refrigerant. You can see at 100 psi, it's 30 degrees. Same thing over here. If the needle was up here at 300 psi on an R22 system, it's being 130 degrees at the outdoor coil, and if it was an R410A system, it's right about 95, 96 degrees. So you use your gauges, which we call pressure gauges. Truly, what they're used for is to measure temperature. So one of the things we teach in Module 3 and you get beat into your head is how do you use your gauges as a troubleshooting tool to measure the temperature, superheating, and subcooling. And just to give you a little indication here, let's take a look at this. 100 psi corresponds to 60 degrees Fahrenheit with R22, and if you go to a pressure temperature chart, this is straight out of the textbook, and you look at 60 degrees, and you come over here to the R22, which is green ring, it's 101.6 psi. So let's go back, and we have 100 degrees, and we're a little bit below 60 right here. And you can see that your gauges are actually a pressure temperature chart. Now I know we have a couple questions, so I'm going to pop back and see what they are. Question about the gloves, just those mechanics gloves, you can get them at Home Depot. They're called mechanics gloves. gloves, and the supply houses have some made especially for HVAC. I just go to Home Depot and get a pair that are nice and thin, but they're leather, and it keeps you from getting that refrigerant on your fingers. And then the other question I have here is, R410A is R410A colder or cooler than R22? No, that's a difficult question to answer. The answer is, in an operating system, they both operate at the same temperatures. Let's go back here, and I'll just show you what we're talking about here. We'll go back. So if you're running an R22 system and you have 100 psi, and this is a little bit high, it is quite high actually, and that's 60 degrees at the coil. If it was an R410A system and it was 60 degrees, it's going to be running at higher pressures. So the R410A runs at higher pressures than the R22 system. Okay, now's my chance to give you a quick spiel and show you what you might be missing out if you haven't signed up for a free student account. And let me do this. This is really bad, but I want to make sure everybody's got what we have covered. Does anybody have any question on what we've covered technically so far here? Good questions. And just remember, this is just a basic introduction. We go into more detail on how to use your gauges as troubleshooting tools in the HVAC class. Okay, so let me show you what you're missing out here with the online air conditioning course. Okay, so we have a free student group, and what we're developing here is a small community of HVAC students. Now, I've been doing this for quite a few years, and I'm still a student of HVAC, so I'm learning things every day. I don't know it all. I've made more than my share of mistakes, but so this is a place where you can come and ask questions in the forum, and there's a calendar of free training like we're having tonight and other members that you can connect with if you would like. So if I send you a friend request, go ahead and accept it, and we can start this conversation, and I'll answer any of your HVAC questions that you might have. All right, so let me show you what you need to do. So here's the website, and if you haven't signed up for a free student account, you can do so right down here at the free student sign up. If you have a Facebook account, it automatically populates. I don't post anything to your Facebook page or anything else. It just makes it simple for you. If you don't have a Facebook account, you're not logged in, it's just a blank form and you can fill it in. I won't pester you with tons of emails, only good online training. And if you check back often, we have the free training events are listed on the home page. Our next one is July 19th, and that's Motor Basics, so you can register for that whenever you'd like. But here is where you get access to the training videos and other parts of the website. So you come to the website, there's this black bar up at the top, and there's a login. And you're going to click on that after you get your free student account and enter your username and password. This is the dummy student, that's me. If I can get my password right. All right, it's going to take you in. It's going to log you in as a student. If you look up here on top, it's going to tell you that you're going to welcome you in. And then if there's any messages about training or anything else, this just happens to be for the classes in Module 3 right now that we have a service call discussion in the forum that we're going back and forth on. Some are a little bit ahead of others, so that this is just to alert you to anything that's going on here in the class. Now, get rid of that. Now, once you're logged in as a free student, there's the HVAC training videos. are listed right here. And then you can go through. I try and keep these as short and to the point as possible. And if there are long ones like prepping the pipe for brazing, how to set up your torches, how to braze, I'll break them down into smaller chunks so that you can watch them without getting too bored. Now, I told you that I would show you how to get into the Module 1 and Module 2 for free, so you can see what what the training is all about. The one thing is, let me back up here, I just clicked that before I should have. Without the textbook, it's going to be tough, but I have a lot of supplementary information in Module 1 and 2 that you can read, and you may be able to even pass the Module 1 and 2 test without the book. So when you're logged in, you go up to the black bar and hit your profile. It's going to take you to your profile page, and then you go to My Courses and click My Courses. Now I'm already enrolled in the course, so this is the HVAC certification course right here. When you log in there, all of these are going to be click to enroll, but that's going to alert me that you'd like to enroll in the class, and then I will give you access to the HVAC certification course, and that will give you access to modules 1 and 2. So when you're in the back end, this is your dashboard, and here are all the modules that you have to go through, and these are written assignments here, and then these are the exams that you have to go through here as well. So when you're in your dashboard and you want to go to Module 1, you go ahead and click Module 1, and it's going to take you to the Module 1 training page. My internet connection was fast enough. And then it tells you what you have to do, gives you a little brief on Module 1, learning objectives, reading assignments, key concepts, some videos to help you understand, and key points. This is all supplementary information here from your reading and written assignments. And then you'll have Module 2, Matter and Energy. Written assignments, this is where you click, and this is where you get your homework, and you submit solutions, which get approved or rejected, and then here's where you take your Module 1 and 2 exam, multiple choice. All right, so that is how you access your Modules 1 and 2. This is the HVAC certification course itself. So I just want to make sure that you get a chance to try this training. If you decide that you want to do it, that's great. If not, I'll see you on the next webinar. I'll just give you one quick commercial. Special offer. If you sign up, first 10 students that sign up for the next class that's coming up, I have a Train HVAC Repair Guide service and system charging manuals. These are 3 of the best manuals I have. I got mine several years ago, so that's your special offer. We're taking care of that. All right, upcoming training events are listed down below. That's the end of my commercial. All right, let's go back here. All right, questions? Okay, if I get your course, will I be able to get certified in Florida, and what kind of certification? That pertains to quite a few people here. There's people from Delaware, Florida, Texas, and I think I even have someone here from Canada. So each state is different. What this course will prepare you for is for you to have the knowledge that you need to go in and interview with an HVAC company and get hired on as an entry-level technician. And I can tell you, my goal is to make sure that you are the best trained technician possible. And when you get done with this course, you're going to know, and if you retain it and you apply yourself, you're going to know a whole lot more than most of the guys you're working with. Florida, I happen to be in Florida. You can be an HVAC technician and work for a company without any state certification, but everyone in the United States needs an EPA certification, and as a free student, you get access to the free, let's go back here, there is the, if you go back to my courses, and you have the free EPA and study practice course. This will this has probably 400 practice questions, similar to what's on the EPA certification exam. It costs $40 to take, and that's given at the supply houses, a air conditioning supply house. If you go in there and ask them, they can make arrangements to get you tested. If you can go through this course, and this is free if you have a free student account, you go through this course and you can score 80% on all 4 of the tests and practice, you should have no problem passing the EPA certification course. Question, do I need to be certified to buy parts? Yes, you do. You need to be a technician, and they probably won't sell them to you as a technician. You need to be a contractor. Okay, any more questions for me before we get back to finishing this up? Okay. All right, so here is the HVAC certification course, all of the modules that are available to you. If you'd like to access modules 1 and 2, I just showed you how. If you can't remember, I'm going to have this webinar up on YouTube here tomorrow. You can watch the tail end, or you can email me or call me on the toll-free number. And once again, when you log in, it's going to look like this for you. Don't do the free HVAC training. Do the HVAC certification. The free training is, I think I'm going to pull that down and offer you modules 1 and 2. Just click to and I'll approve it just as soon as I get that. All right, I'd like to thank everybody very much. I hope you enjoyed your training. If you have feedback, good or bad, I encourage it and want that feedback so that I can make this training better for you. You guys are all welcome, and hopefully I will see you on the next class. All right, so I'm going to check back for the last questions. If you have any more questions, stay online. The rest, I'll talk to you next month, and I'll answer all your questions as soon as I get back. Okay, hold on just 1 second, Tina, and I'll get back here and answer your questions. Okay, Michael. You need the Type 2 exam tips. Okay. Mike, if you signed up for a free student account, you can get into the free EPA exam, and I have the core Type 1, Type 2, and Type 3, and you can go in there and I'll make sure I have it set on the practice test, so you can take the test. If you get the answer wrong, it'll flash you the right question. Unfortunately, the EPA exam is a memorization and memory dump. Hopefully that answers your question. Next training, Tina, on the website, I believe it is the 29th of August, basic motors, magnetism and basic motors. So check on the website. I have that right there on the home page. Joe, is the course hard to learn? Is the course hard to learn without any hands-on? Here's the thing with the hands-on. There's interactive training. We go through, especially Module 3, refrigeration, and there's an interactive refrigeration measurement, superheat, subcooling, and troubleshooting so that you can go through it and see the whole circuit in a graphical format, see the whole circuit, measure pressures, measure temperatures, and see what a system looks like when it has a low charge or a high charge or a bad expansion valve. So, and we have the same thing for the electrical part. And here's the thing: if someone gave you, this is a problem with our industry right now. The hands-on training is great, but to understand what's behind that hands-on is the key to being successful. Brazing takes practice. If you go to a college course, you're going to have a day or two of brazing, and that's it. A day or two of hands-on here and hands-on there. We focus on understanding refrigeration theory and electrical, you can repair anything that you want to repair at that time. So there are also, one more thing, we have real-life service calls that you're going to have to look at gauges and pressures and temperatures and diagnose and tell me what's wrong with the system. And it's real life, it's not out of the book. Hopefully that answers your question. And I'm here to make sure that you learn everything you need to learn. Okay, how do you find your local supply house where I could take an EPA exam? Excuse me, most cities have what's called Johnstone Supply. If you look those up on the internet, Johnstone Supply, where are you? West Virginia. I'm not certain. I know we had a Johnstone Supply in Seattle and in Montana, so and quite a few in Florida. So in West Virginia, check Johnstone Supply. Gem Air might be one to look at. Carrier Enterprises, Lennox, Train, they all have supply houses in the major cities. Okay, you're welcome, Jim. Can you pick the course where you are weak? Dwight, are you a working in the HVAC field now? Okay. Let me see. I'm in the process, Dwight, of putting up a NATE course and to help further educate. Why don't you do this? Hang on the line here. I'll finish up here, and then I'll talk with you in a little more detail about maybe what we can do to help you out. Okay, Justin. Boy, that's a tough one, Justin. Excuse me, your VOTEC. Here's what I would tell you to do. Sign up for the free student account. And Justin's in VOTEC school, so he wants to look for something to help enhance that. Watch the videos. Post on the forum, the free student forum. I check it all day, every day. I'll answer any question that you might have. And then attend our monthly webinars. And if you're at a VOTEC school, and I don't know, did you learn something today that they don't teach you at the VOTEC school? So, okay, so there you go. So the answer is yes. I don't know if the HVAC training full course and for you to pay for that is financially smart for you to do, but once a month, if you stay in touch, I have courses like this that probably help you out. Hopefully it answered your question. Any more questions before I get back? All right, Justin, good. Okay, Dwight, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording of the screencast here, and then I'll just chat with you in just a bit.